Imagine a quiet Sunday morning in a Texas town. The air still and calm, then just shattered by a brutal act. Who is the person in tactical gear who walked into a church and murdered Missy Bevers?
That's the question, isn't it? It's hung heavy over Midlothian for, what, 9 years now? That Sunday, April 18th, 2016. It started like any other, but ended with a violence that just seemed impossible there.
Impossible. Especially, in a church. Missy Bevers, this vibrant 45-year-old fitness instructor. She was just heading to Creekside Church.
Right.
Her routine was to get there early, set up for her Camp Gladiator class. Yeah. It was clearly a big part of her life, how she connected with people. But that morning, she walked into something awful.
And the really chilling part is there's video, isn't there? Surveillance footage caught someone inside the church, fully decked out in tactical gear before Missy even got there.
Yeah.
The fact that this happened inside a church, I mean, a place you think of as safe, as a sanctuary, it just makes it all the more shocking.
It really does. It shakes that basic sense of security. So that's the mystery we're diving into today. This isn't just about, rehashing an old case. It's about a wound that's still open for that community. We're going to look at the information we have, pull from our sources, and try to maybe piece together some understanding of this 9-year enigma.
Exactly. It's about what we know, acknowledging what we don't, and also looking at these recent developments, which offer maybe a little bit of hope for some answers.
Let's maybe focus on Missy for a second first.
Yeah.
Our sources, they paint this picture of someone just full of life, born August 70, so 45 when she died.
Right.
A dedicated fitness instructor, mom to 3 kids, married to Brendan Bevers. Known for her energy, the positive way she impacted people through those Camp Gladiator classes. She was clearly someone people looked up to.
Absolutely. By all accounts, a real, pillar in her community, which is why the sheer brutality and the apparent randomness of it all felt like such a violation. She was just going about her day. Preparing for a fitness class scheduled before dawn, she got to the church around, 4:20 a.m.?
4:20 a.m. And in that totally normal moment, everything just changed. That surveillance footage, it's genuinely disturbing to watch. This figure, just completely covered head to toe in tactical gear, helmet, vest, gloves, moving so methodically through the church before Missy arrived. It almost looks like someone preparing, setting a stage.
Yeah, like they knew what they were doing.
They were even seen breaking windows, testing doors maybe. What does that suggest to you?
Well, it strongly suggests premeditation, doesn't it? More than just a spontaneous act. The deliberate way they moved on camera points to someone with a plan.
What?
And then by 5 a.m., Missy was found dead in the church foyer. The details in the sources are stark, 21 stab wounds. It speaks to a really violent intent.
21?
Yeah. And then just as suddenly as they appeared on camera, this figure was gone, vanished, leaving behind this scene that just shattered the peace of that town.
Vanished. It's most unbelievable. The police response, you can imagine, was immediate, huge.
Of course.
The church became the center of everything. The community was just gripped by fear, disbelief, and the investigation kicked off, pouring over every single frame of that unsettling footage.
And that tactical gear, like you said, it immediately raised questions. Did this person have military training, law enforcement background, something like that?
Right.
But despite digging into all that, checking backgrounds, no direct links were ever really solidified, were they?
No. It's this weird contrast, isn't it? The calculated feel of the gear, the actions inside the church, but then apparently a clean getaway.
Yeah, it suggests maybe some knowledge of the building or how to avoid being seen right away.
Could be.
But as our sources detail, even with the flood of tips and looking closely at people locally, even, former partners, nobody was definitively tied to the crime.
And then, 2017, a year after the murder, a name pops up, right? Someone reportedly connected to a similar crime somewhere else. That must have felt like a real potential turning point, a solid lead after so much uncertainty.
Oh, absolutely. A potential connection like that, suggesting a pattern, that's huge for investigators. They would have definitely focused hard on that.
Understandably.
But as the sources make clear, ultimately, that lead didn't result in any charges being filed in Missy's case. It's just a tough reminder of how complex these things are.
Yeah.
Promising leads can just fizzle out for all sorts of reasons.
So the years kept rolling by, no arrests, the community still wrestling with it all. And then we get to 2025.
Right.
Our sources highlight something pretty significant, potentially game-changing. A new forensic review of the evidence.
Yes.
DNA tech has jumped light years ahead since 2016, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So re-examining everything from the scene feels like a really vital step. what could that realistically open up?
It's absolutely crucial. The cool thing is, even years later, science catches up. Retesting DNA, it could potentially identify the perpetrator, finally. Or, just as importantly, it could definitively rule out people who might have been under suspicion before.
It really makes you wonder, could some microscopic trace, something missed back then, or something they just couldn't analyze properly,
Yeah.
could that unlock this whole thing?
That's certainly the hope, isn't it, for everyone connected to this. And that's not the only 2025 development our sources mention. There's a witness.
Mm-hmm. The vehicle.
Yeah, someone came forward remembering a suspicious vehicle near the church around the time of the murder. That's another thread, right? After all this time, could a detail like that actually make a difference?
It absolutely could. Eyewitness accounts, even years later, can be incredibly valuable. Sometimes new info jogs a memory, or a detail that seems minor back then suddenly clicks into place.
Right.
The fact that police are actively looking into this vehicle lead shows this case is still very much a priority for them.
It says a lot about their dedication and just how much this crime still hangs over the community. Our sources touch on some of the theories that have swirled around over the years.
Oh yeah, there have been a few.
Everything from maybe someone local with a grudge, given Missy was pretty well known. Right, the personal vendetta angle.
To the more chilling idea of like a connection to a serial offender.
Yeah.
Maybe the tactical gear points to someone more calculated, more practiced.
It's important we remember these are just theories, without hard proof. But yeah, the specific nature of that gear, it does make you speculate about someone with specialized training or a very particular motive.
Or maybe just a break-in gone wrong.
That's been considered too, yeah. An opportunistic crime at the church that has escalated violently. Though, like you mentioned earlier, the sheer number of stab wounds that often suggests something more targeted, more personal.
And that's the frustration, isn't it, for everyone who's followed this? No clear answers, no accountability, just this tangled web of possibilities and questions that won't go away. It does sort of echo other big cases, doesn't it, where key pieces just stay missing.
Definitely. When you look at other unsolved crimes, these long-term mysteries often highlight, the limits of the forensic tech they had at the time, or just how incredibly hard it is to piece things together without clear witnesses or that smoking gun physical evidence.
Yeah.
The hope with these 2025 developments is that maybe, just maybe, those past limitations can finally be overcome.
The impact of Missy's murder on Midlothian.
Mm.
Our source material really drives that home. A place that felt safe suddenly feels vulnerable. You have to imagine places like churches, especially, probably had to rethink their security, didn't they?
It's that awful ripple effect, isn't it? That feeling of safety gets shattered and communities have to deal with losing that sense of innocence. And beyond the community impact, we absolutely have to remember the just profound personal tragedy for Missy's husband, Brandon, and their 3 kids.
Oh, absolutely.
Their grief is just immense, and they've been so public, so tireless in pushing for justice for Missy.
And that search for justice, it carries right into 2025, as we see with these new investigative efforts. It really shows their strength, their commitment to getting answers. If you're listening and Missy's story connects with you, you can't help but feel for her family and this long road they've been on.
What's really striking is how hope endures, 9 years have passed, but the family, the community, they haven't given up this new forensic work, chasing down this vehicle lead. It gives a real sense that closure might actually be possible now.
Yeah.
Which brings up the big question, right? What specific piece of evidence, maybe something re-examined, maybe something totally new, what could finally break this case wide open?
It's the question hanging over everyone who knows this heartbreaking story. After 9 long years, Missy Bevers' murder still casts this shadow over Midlothian. It echoes those other enduring mysteries, those other unsolved cases and disappearances. The efforts happening now, in 2025, with the DNA retesting and checking out that suspicious vehicle, they offer a much-needed glimmer of hope that maybe, finally, justice is coming for Missy and her loved ones. But, yeah, ultimately, the truth is still out there, waiting.
And that's exactly why the call to action is still so important. If anything we've talked about today, any detail from this deep dive sparks something for you. If you remember anything odd around Midlothian back then, no matter how small it seems, please reach out to the Midlothian Police Department.
Yep.
That little piece of information you have, even if you think it's nothing, it could be the exact puzzle piece they need to finally close this case.
9 years.
Yeah.
9 years since that quiet Sunday morning was just destroyed. The echoes are still there, just like the unanswered questions in other cases. What piece of this whole tangled puzzle are we still missing? And could 2025 finally be the year it comes to light? It's It's a powerful thought to leave with.